Today, I want to tell you a story. It's about a crime, a courtroom, and a question that, honestly, goes way beyond simple guilt or innocence. It's the story of a boy whose real crime, well, you might find it wasn't theft at all, but the hunger that life forced on him. So let's step inside that courtroom. Just picture it. The air is so thick you can feel it, heavy with the weight of justice. You know that kind of quiet where every little sound, a cough, a rustle of paper just echoes through the room? It's a place where a person's entire future can change in a single moment. And right in the middle of it all, there's a young man. He's accused of stealing a mobile phone. But when you look at him, he doesn't really look like a criminal. He just looks lost. The judge leans forward, and his voice cuts through the silence. Do you accept that you committed this crime? The whole room just kind of holds its breath. Everyone's waiting for the denial, the excuse, the usual plea. But what he says next isn't what anyone expected. In a clear, steady voice, he just says, yes. That one single word sends this ripple of shock through the entire courtroom. But see, this wasn't some simple admission of guilt. Nope, this was the start of a much, much deeper story. A crime that wasn't about greed, but about pure, raw desperation. The judge is furious, absolutely furious. He doesn't see the young man's honesty. He sees it as defiance. You are shameless, he practically yells, his voice just filled with anger. To steal and then to admit it so bluntly? And the young man, he just stands there. He says nothing. He just takes the judge's anger, and his silence is this huge contrast to all the tension building up in the room. The judge takes this silence as even more disrespect. He gives him an ultimatum. Speak now, or I will hand you a harsh punishment. And it's that word, punishment, that finally seems to break through. The young man starts to tremble, and then, in a voice that's barely a whisper, the truth just spills out. Sir, I hadn't eaten for 2 days. I have no work. My mother is ill at home. And just like that, with those few sentences, the entire story just shatters. This wasn't malice. This was survival. Those words land like a shockwave, and the whole room goes silent. All of a sudden, this isn't a story about a stolen phone anymore. It's a story about a system that completely failed someone. And in that moment, a lawyer stands up. His voice just cuts right through the quiet. He looks straight at the judge and says, Sir, he's not just a thief. He is a victim. We failed him. We failed to give him an education, a job, or health care. And now the only thing we're offering him is punishment. And you can just feel the weight of that statement. The whole courtroom is just frozen, forced to face a much, much deeper truth. That silence, it forces everyone, both in that room and us, watching right now, to look beyond the crime itself. We really have to understand the anatomy of why this happened. So what is the real story here? Was this young man truly a criminal, just driven by a desire to do something wrong? Or was he just the final, desperate product of a broken system that left him with zero options? This is where we have to connect the dots. I mean, think about it. When a kid grows up in poverty, without a decent education, watching their family struggle every single day, what do we actually expect to grow inside them? It's not going to be hope and opportunity. It's going to be a toxic mix of hatred, jealousy, and just total despair. And this really gets to the heart of it all. A starving stomach can't learn ethics. A body that's shivering from the cold can't preserve its dignity. When it comes down to it, basic survival will always, and I mean always, win out over morality. And that forces us to zoom out, way beyond this one kid in this one courtroom. Because his story, it says something about all of us. It's about our collective fingerprint, the one we all leave on the world that we create together. You know, oppression isn't always loud and violent. Sometimes it's these quiet failures. It's not paying a worker what they're truly owed. It's denying the poor their basic rights to things like healthcare. It's holding back opportunities from young people who are just trying to build a life. Which brings us right back to the central question of this whole thing. Do crimes just happen out of nowhere like a storm on a clear day? Or are they the predictable result of the conditions that we, as a society, create and then allow to exist? But okay, just understanding the problem is enough, right? We have to ask ourselves, what is the path to real justice? What does that even look like? Now, let's be really clear. This isn't about making excuses for crime. Personal responsibility absolutely matters, and punishment has to be part of any justice system. But we have to ask the hard question. Is the individual the only one who's responsible? Is the system itself completely blameless? And the answer is pretty obviously no. The path forward has to have a few key parts. First, we've got to strengthen our justice system so it's fair and it's swift. Second, we have to make education truly accessible to every single child. Third, create real, meaningful jobs. And fourth, and this one might be the most important, we have to intentionally grow compassion in our own hearts. Here's a really powerful way to think about it. When justice becomes cheap, meaning it's easy to get, it's fair for everyone, crime becomes an expensive and difficult choice. The two are completely connected. So I'll leave you with this final thought. That boy in the courtroom didn't wake up that morning wanting to be a criminal. He woke up hungry, jobless, and desperate. We have to remember that when all the doors to hope are closed and locked, people will find another way. The real question for all of us is, what paths are we leaving open?